G'day, I'm Faintly Saintly, and thank you for joining me for another Humble Choice Special Pass for March 2025. If you're new to the series, this is my brief overview of each month's Humble Choice offerings, using the same thought processes that I use when I'm trying to decide for myself. Will I smash the Choose Games button, or will I pass this
Bummer.
time and hope for a better offering next month? My goal is to provide you with all the information you need to decide this for yourself, all in one place. I'm still tinkering with the format of this series, but this month I'll be aiming for a shorter and more concise overview, with the aim to deliver the relevant information to you while minimising the time you need to invest watching. I've also been spending more time in communities that discuss Humble Bundle to give me a better idea of what people generally value in a bundle, and what is not so well received. This month we have a very interesting and, let's say, controversial selection to go over, so let's get on with it. The first game in the bundle is quite a solid headliner, and that's Pacific Drive. And this is a survival game that puts you behind the wheel of a trusty station wagon as you navigate your way around a dangerous exclusion zone facing off against supernatural threats and anomalies. Meanwhile, you piece together the mysteries of the world around you. There is quite a bit of a story element to it as well, and a focus on exploration and scavenging for resources because, well, keeping your vehicle well maintained is probably your only chance of making it out alive. The game was released in February 2024 and is currently sitting at very positive on Steam, with 83% of all reviews being positive. And it's currently on sale for about $30 Australian as well. Full price is typically just over 50, meaning that the inclusion of this bundle is a pretty good value proposition if this is a game that interests you. In addition to this, the bundle does also include the 4 DLC packs, which are just, I think, customizable content, I believe, if that's your kind of thing, and that's worth about $30 on its own as well. So, you know, the value for this is pretty good considering. And I think a lot of people that have been hanging out to play this game have already, like, this is what I'm reading from the community, they've said that that basically makes the bundle worth it on its own, and any other game that might interest them down the line is just icing on the cake. In a positive note, this game still is in active development, and the devs have teased they're hard at work at their so-called largest update yet, so there does appear to be some life left in this one as well. It is considered playable on Steam Deck, but there have been some reports of how well it actually works, so that will warrant further research if it is a priority for you to be able to play this on your Steam Deck. As mentioned, the overall reviews are very positive, but there are a few prominent negative aspects as well that are raised fairly often. Mainly, I'm reading that the game has a pretty, how would I say it, unforgiving save system, meaning that when you die, you often lose quite a bit of progress. And a few people have expressed frustration with this, particularly as the aim of the game is to sort of unravel and advance the story, but it doesn't quite gel so well when you're faced with the prospect of losing everything and starting over. The game has a great gameplay loop and is very satisfying to play, but it does fall short for some people, as not much seems to change in the mid to late game. Overall, it's a very strong start to the bundle. It's a highly regarded game that is still receiving updates 1 year on, with compelling and immersive gameplay elements, and I definitely think this is a big tick for most gamers who don't already own the game. Definitely a smash for me. Okay, the next game in the bundle is the second headline act, and that's Homeworld 3. And this is probably where the controversy starts. Let me just start by saying Humble Choice is said to be a curated selection of games on offer each month, with a healthy mix of mainstream titles and some more obscure out there indie games. Not every game is going to be for everyone, but that's part of the fun. However, the inclusion of Homeworld 3 as one of the larger, more premium offerings is a little bit baffling considering the mostly negative reviews on Steam you can see here, with a dismal 38% of all reviews being positive. So it's going to be hard to justify this one. It was released in May 2024 as the latest entry into the beloved Homeworld franchise, and it is a modern and graphically appealing space strategy game offering large-scale fleet combat in 3D space. The game is story-based, but it does also offer co-op and PvP offerings as well. System requirements are modest, requiring, I think, a 1080 as the recommended, yes, 1080 Ti, and 16 gigs of RAM, so it's not too extreme. It's considered playable, but not specifically supported on the Steam Deck as well, so consider that if you are a Steam Deck user. And the going price is an incredible $90 Australian, which is a little bit huge for a year-old game that is not well received, I guess. But look, from a value standpoint, if you're going to get it in a bundle. You're going to, not pay this ridiculous price. Now, the reviews are a bit difficult to read and get your head around because most of the negativity doesn't seem to be because Homeworld 3 is a bad game. As such, the majority of what I read is just disappointment. Disappointment that it's dull, that it's bog average, and it's really a disappointing entry into what was a highly revered franchise. While the graphics and acting are still well regarded, the common theme that I'm seeing is that the gameplay is lackluster, the writing is a bit subpar, the story is tedious, and of course there's the price of the game. And it sounds like also there are some DLCs that they're pushing as well on top of that price tag, so it is a little bit cash grabby, I guess. There is also the concerns that I'm reading about the inclusion of De Novo. Let's see if I can find that here. Maybe that's been removed over time because I can't actually see that there. So we'll just have to take that comment's word for it, or maybe verify that if we're concerned about it. And the other thing is that there is a third-party end-user license agreement here, and people are also expressing concern that this potentially grants permission to collect an array of personal information that probably shouldn't be necessary just to play a game. Now, I'm not a historical fan of the series, so I don't really have a horse in this race, but really, I'm not compelled to change that. Everything I'm reading here tells me that this is probably not worth the time or the effort, so no thank you. Okay, the third game in the bundle is Wild Hearts, and let me just start this one by saying that when I was reviewing last month's games, I thought I might have been overreacting a little bit by making a big deal out of the fact that one of the games was offered as an Origin key, not a Steam key. But as I mentioned at the start of the video, I've been spending a bit more time in online communities that discuss the Humble Bundles, and from what I've read, I'm not alone. The general consensus is that most gamers do not want Origin keys, especially for games like this one, which, as you can see here, are available on Steam. So keep that in mind because this is an Origin key on offer. So let's talk about Wild Hearts. It's not a game I've actually heard of before, but at first glance it looks like it really wants to be Monster Hunter. In this world, you're encouraged to utilize ancient technologies to hunt down your prey, which is a wide assortment of large beasties. So typical Monster Hunter sort of concept, as you can see here. And it does support, the full co-op multiplayer and that sort of thing. Visually, it is not an ugly game. Looks quite good, and I think the recommended PC specs are at least an RTX 2070, which probably is a bit higher than what we'd usually see in a Humble Bundle game. But, it's not, considerable these days. I mean, that's what, 3 generations old now, so surely most gamers that'll be interested in something like this would have something better already. But it is worth noting that this is unsupported by Steam Deck. Saying that, it is an Origin game anyway, so you'd probably have to jump through some hoops to get it working regardless. So onto the reviews. They're mixed, with 48% being positive, and that's collected since the release in 2023. So the core gameplay and creature variety are noted as the strong points, but it is said to be horribly buggy and pretty badly optimized. A lot of people are saying that it is obviously very expensive and being listed at a whopping $100 Australian on Steam right now, as you can see right here. Even 2 years after its release, yeah, it's a bit questionable. This might be nice for someone out there, but at this point, why wouldn't you just play a Monster Hunter? There's a new one out, Monster Hunter Rise, Monster Hunter Worlds. They're both on Steam, both very, very good. Probably a bit cheaper than $100 by now as well, so you can probably do better. For me, easy pass. Okay, and that brings us to the fourth game in the bundle, Tales of Kenzera, Zao. And thank God we got the Origin game key out of the way because... Oh, hang on a second. Damn it. After listening to everybody's feedback and complaints last month about how nobody wants Origin keys, Humble rewards its loyal customers with no less than 2 Origin keys this month, so we're off to a good start. Especially because this is also available on Steam. So if you're not familiar with this game, I'll call it Zao. It's a 2024 action-adventure game with Metroidvania elements, and it has a pretty unique and beautiful art style, if I do say so myself. You can sort of see from the screenshots here, it is quite a stylish game. It's an interesting world setting based around shamans and spirits and gods and that sort of thing. So it's a bit of a spiritual adventure, but it does look very, very impressive. I mean, check that out. That's pretty nice looking. Good sense of scale there as well. So the game is currently $30 on Steam, which is, I guess, a reasonable price for a game of this caliber. And the Steam store does list it as Steam Deck verified, which is nice, but remember, this is being offered as an Origin key, so again, you might have to jump through some hoops to get that working on your Steam Deck, if you even can. I'm sure you can, but I'm just not familiar with the process there. It is rated very positive on Steam, at least. 81% of all reviews are positive, and you can see down here Metacritic score of 76, so that's pretty solid. Reviewers like the graphics and art style, and they do appreciate that this is an evolution that modernizes the Metroidvania genre. But conversely, people do have issues with the game's difficulty. I'm reading a few people saying that is a little bit on the easy side, and a few people saying that that is until you come across a certain mission that might be time sensitive, or it rushes you and the camera sort of lags behind and it actively works against you. So it's a bit of artificial difficulty, mostly with the game's systems rather than the gameplay itself. But despite this, it does appear to be a very solid and well-received game. It's just up to you whether you want to settle for an Origin key. Personally, I don't. So pass from me. Okay, we're 5 games into this bundle now. We need a savior. And this one actually looks really, really cool to me. It's quite appealing in my opinion, but I'm not sure whether this is going to be enough to save the bundle for most people and get them back on board. In any case, Gravity Circuit is a retro-inspired 2D platformer with some heavy Mega Man influences. It reminds me of Shovel Knight a little bit in a way, because it has those authentic sort of retro sprite graphics, but a lot of modern gaming conventions and quality of life changes as well. The reviews are overwhelmingly positive on Steam, with 95% of all user reviews being positive, which is very impressive. The game was originally released in 2023 and is usually priced at $25, though at the time of recording, as you can see here, it is 50% off. Now, this game is Steam Deck verified, so that is a good prospect as well, because it looks like a very fun game to take on the go as well. And because it's a bit old school, you can imagine it won't take much to run, so it should run nicely on your handheld. Now, the incredibly positive reviews do touch on the excellent art direction and level design, and consider it an authentic tribute to 90s platformers such as Mega Man X, with some of the modern conveniences and quality of life improvements. I did have to go digging a little bit to find any consensus on the negatives, but most of the complaints were about the difficulty, thinking that it was too difficult, or that the writing was a bit corny. But overall, there's not much bad to say about this one. So for me, that is definitely a smash. Okay, the 6th game in the bundle is an interesting one, and it seems to have flown under the radar a little bit. This was released in 2022, and it's called Sir Whoopass. It is an action RPG, which, as you can probably tell from the title, leans into some silly humour. It doesn't have a lot of reviews either, but overall they are very positive, with about 84% of them being positive. The game usually sells for about $24 for me, but currently, as you can see, 50% off at the time of recording, so you can have it for $12. Now, the gameplay does seem like your typical sort of hack and slash, with a variety of weapons and abilities to mow down your enemies, and there's jokey dialogue and funny animations and minigames scattered throughout. Now, Sir Whoopass is Steam Deck verified, and the required specs are not too intensive, so it should run fine on just about any modern setup that you can throw at it. The reviews tell us that it's generally a pretty good time for those looking for something a little bit silly and lighthearted, but on the flip side, it is said to be quite short and a little bit janky. Though a bit of jank, I guess, would add to the silly feel of the game. I think the appeal for this kind of game is probably very personal, and it's probably most likely going to appeal to a younger audience, though I can't really speak to how appropriate some of the humour might be for younger players. In my view, this one doesn't do a lot for me, so that will be a pass. Okay, next up in the bundle we have Racine, which I believe that's how it's pronounced. And this one I'm not really familiar with at all, and based on the low number of reviews, I'm not the only one. It was released in 2023, and it is a strategic auto-battler roguelike in which you use cards to cast spells or buffs as you fight through these increasingly complex and interestingly designed enemies and environments. It does have an appealing art style, I've got to say. It does remind me a little bit of Dome Keeper, with that sort of semi-modern pixel art style. But there might be some question marks about the gameplay. It does only have a 69% positive review rating on Steam, making it mixed. And the game usually sells for about $15. It is listed as playable on the Steam Deck, but not fully compatible or verified. So I can't speak much for the gameplay, because as I said, I hadn't heard of this one. I'm only putting it together through basically gameplay footage. And watching that does shed a little bit of light onto the mechanics. In terms of the reviews, while most people seem to enjoy it, notably not many have a high number of hours played. I think 17 hours here is probably the highest one I've seen. Most people only have a few. The common themes in the negative reviews are that the game is a bit minimalist, a bit simple, a bit slow, and a little bit tedious. If you're getting the bundle anyway, this might be a little bonus that could surprise you, and it seems like some people really do enjoy it, and you might as well. But on its own, I don't see anyone who's on the fence about getting the bundle changing their minds just for this game. Usually probably something I would like, but I'm not overly excited about this one. It's a pass for me. Now, the final game in this month's bundle is possibly the one that appeals to me the most and could save it for a few people. This is Cavern of Dreams, and it's an old school 3D platformer that looks like someone's ripped it straight off a Nintendo 64 cartridge. This one oozes charm and that nostalgic 3D collectathon aesthetic. So if you're a fan of Banjo-Kazooie, Donkey Kong 64 or Mario 64 back in the day, this game probably invokes a real sense of nostalgia in you to go along with your back pain and dodgy knees. It does have overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam, with an impressive 95% of reviewers recommending it, which is very good. It is fair to say that this is an authentic experience with the gameplay to back it up. It's not just nostalgia bait. The game usually sells for around $20 Australian, so from a value perspective, the value of the bundle probably would be a decent way to get your hands on it, and obviously then you get the handful of other games to go along with it as well. Cavern of Dreams is Steam Deck playable, not verified, but it is pretty simple to run, so it should run on anything you can throw at it as well. Overall, the reviews rave about the genuine feelings of the old school platformers. The gameplay is highly regarded, with a few noting that the difficulty is also reminiscent of that era of games as well. So from platforming to puzzles to prettiness, 95% of reviewers do recommend the game. The few negative reviews I can find all seem fairly inconsistent. I can't really find a consistent pain point for people, although a few do seem to have issues with the difficulty. More personal grievances that it's too hard, or it controls a bit poorly, or possibly that the camera movement is a bit awkward. But I think if you're used to playing these games from back in the day, that'll be nothing to you. If I was grabbing this bundle for one game, this would be it. Definitely a smash for me. Bummer. Overall, there are a couple of hidden gems in this bundle, but the baffling decision to include some very negatively received games in what is supposed to be a curated bundle sours the whole package a little bit, as does the inclusion of 2 Origin keys instead of Steam keys for 2 of the games, which also appear on Steam by the way, and that is a little bit of a concerning trend to watch for in future bundles. So I've scored this bundle with 3 smashes and 5 passes, but do we think those 3 interesting games are worth the price of entry? I imagine if this bundle is for anyone, it's for those of you who are waiting for the chance to grab Pacific Drive, and I do believe that this bundle would be the cheapest that game has sold for to date. In addition to that, you do get your hands on a few retro-inspired gems like Cavern of Dreams and Gravity Circuit, but beyond that, it is hard to find much to get excited about this month. That's it from me, and I hope you're finding this series helpful and informative. If you like this or have any feedback about how this format might be improved, please let me know in the comments. And please also consider subscribing, so you can be notified when I cover next month's bundle, and you can check out some of the games I've been playing in between. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Cheers.